This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 7th of October 2019, and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Star, is Kalonzo talking to Ruto about 2022? Daily Nation, what 9 trillion shillings debt means for you and family. And in the Standard, the president's 416 puppets.
Quite interesting headlines, all of them.
All different?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Kalonzo and Ruto.
Yes.
2022.
Yes. So the Star tells us that Kalonzo and Ruto's people have been talking about a possible alliance for 2022.
Yeah.
You know, I saw this and I laughed because when we did the numbers, ethnic numbers, for 2017 election, the Kalenjins about 2.3, the Kambas about 2.2. That is about 4.5 million votes. Now, when Gema and Kalenjin come together, they get about 7.9 because Gema is 5.6 million votes. Now, and that is for 50% plus one. So when the Kambas and Kalenjins come together, I think it will be 30% plus one.
Wow. So you're saying that what are Kalonzo and Ruto talking about for 2022? Nothing.
It's a road to nowhere.
They still need a kingmaker in their coalition.
Yeah.
But also, it says they've been talking through emissaries. Are we sure that they are actually... Anyway, I don't blame Kalonzo. A man needs options.
You know,
yeah, very true.
Kalonzo is a very guy, like, he likes going like, because he's actually a special envoy to the Sudan. Right?
Yeah.
And that's for Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah.
Now he's given a job and now he's talking to William Ruto.
However, I'll give it to the Star for being insightful, for being forward-thinking. They're telling us, you know, what's around the corner, even if it is 2 years away.
Yes,
right?
yes. Anyway, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines. We ask ourselves, is it topical or speculative? Is it groundbreaking or repetitive? And is it effective or just plain lazy?
I think it's an interesting story. It's insightful.
Yeah, so we can park it.
Park it, yes.
Daily Nation, 9 trillion shillings and what it means for you and your family.
So the Daily Nation in this story, they're just giving us more insight into this new debt ceiling that we have. So as we know, the Senate has increased the debt limit to the debt ceiling to 9 trillion shillings. And they say that now the National Treasury has an excess, or they're able to borrow 2.5 billion more than they could before. And they calculate it down, the indebtedness of
2.5 trillion more? Or
Trillion.
Trillion.
The indebtedness of every Kenyan is now 189,218 shillings. So between us, that's quite a bit. However, they do say in this article that they spoke to some economists and they said that this will not be a problem if we are taking better loans. And also that gives the country an extension with which to deal with our already existing loans.
Exactly. And when debt is used appropriately, it can actually foster long-term growth.
Absolutely.
So we're hoping that this maneuver room gives us better options.
Do you guys know the story of the man and the donkey and his son?
Tell us.
Now, the man and his son are walking with a donkey, and then they meet women in the marketplace. And the women in the marketplace say, what a stupid father and son. Instead of riding on the donkey, they're actually walking with the donkey. The father steps on the donkey and he rides on it. The son is, the son is beside walking with the donkey. And then they meet a group of old men, and the group of old men say, what a stupid father. Instead of letting his son
sit on the donkey.
Now, the point is this. The media in this country are like those people who are watching the donkey, the father, and the son walking. Whatever position government is in, they will always hate.
Yeah, they'll make a comment, that's true.
I just suggest government, please just do what you have to do to ensure you survive and stay alive.
And I think what I like about the Daily Nation is telling us how much it is for each individual helps the average person just put it in perspective, into context.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's not necessarily a negative story in this instance. It's just telling you this is what this decision means.
However, we did say that by them saying 9 trillion, it is very misleading. Just because you have a loan facility or you have access to 9 trillion doesn't mean you need to use all 9 trillion.
But listen, knowing Kenya the way it has been operating, do you think we will not use this facility of 2-point-something trillion?
Either way, we need some.
I'm willing to put all my money,
all your 189,218,
that they will utilize this facility.
And then the picture of the Ukuri Atani, he seems so
impressed.
exasperated.
However, I think for a bit of misleadingness, we toss it away. But it was enlightening.
Enlightening. In the Standard, the president's 416 puppets.
I love it.
I actually had to do a double take with this one. But some context here. The story goes that the 12th Parliament is not doing its job. Basically, it has abdicated its role in protecting the public interest of Kenyans. And this is in light of the interest rate cap bill was back in Parliament. And they failed to raise it 233 MPs.
Absolutely.
Basically, some people signed in but were not there, present at the time of voting, essentially letting the president have his way.
Absolutely.
What a shame.
And so apparently it has been happening. It has been the nature of this parliament to sort of let the executive continually have its way. Last September, when there was 8% fuel levy about to be added,
everyone just vanished.
Exactly. So I think there's a great feeling that they are doing a disservice in their role.
And it's quite interesting because you can vote yay, you can vote nay, or you can abstain. And so they are choosing, rather than to vote abstain, they're just not showing up at all. Because if you abstain, it still shows that 2M abstain. But if you're not there at all, they don't know.
And you see, for the hand side, it's clever because it means that your constituents can never go back and actually check where were you, what were you doing.
But guys, the Standard should know there's a reason why the ruling government is called the ruling government. It's because they have a majority. Now, when you have a majority and you have a leader of majority and a leader of minority that are now working together, what did you expect?
I know that's very true, but it makes me worried about the state of democracy in this country. The cartoon the other day was talking about how we're cutting off the branch of the judiciary. And I feel like now we have this very strong executive where even the legislative arm, they have no leg to stand on. We may as well just...
Let me tell you, in these emerging markets like Kenya and banana republics like ours, you need a little bit of fist to get things done.
Well, there we go.
So if we were to choose between the Star and the Standard,
I like the Star, gives us food for thought.
I agree.
Calling parliamentarians puppets, always funny.
That I love.
All right, so can we toss the Standard
Why
then?
are you tossing the Standard?
Because the Star is a winner. It's 2 against.
But 2 against 1.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
There you have it. The Star gives us
executive producer will win tomorrow.
All right, fantastic.
There we have a winning headline from the Star. Onto the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria that we use. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? Or is it effective
or just plain lazy? We got you.
Are you trying to trick us?
I was trying to see if you're paying attention.
Gado,
caricature of a Donald himself. And he is in between telephone wires, is that correct? And he's trying to make a call. But
or maybe he's tweeting.
He's trying to tweet.
Yeah.
He's on the phone blabbering.
Yes. And instead of saving himself, he's just tweeting. Is that what they're telling us?
That might be. Or maybe he's caught up in a web of
telephone calls.
Yeah, I think this relates to the phone call situation that he's in right now. Yeah, as they approach the impeachment proceedings.
With the Ukraine.
With the Ukraine, exactly.
Yeah, I would toss it. I didn't like it.
I would toss it as well. I think it's a bit offbeat.
And I didn't even laugh.
We didn't even, exactly. Ozone.
Caricature of student Rotich, former CS, because he's wearing an oversized jacket. And inside of his coat is a protruding William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. And the caption there is, "You messed up a whole country," they say.
I think that's in reference to the standard headline from the other day.
Absolutely. And I think they're trying to, what Ozone is trying to tell us is the persons that were blamed for this are actually the ones in the court. And not Rotich himself. Because the guy looks bewildered, he looks perplexed.
It's true, what did I get myself into?
Absolutely.
I thought it was very funny. We can park it.
Absolutely.
Right. Park it while we look at the...
Yeah.
The governor himself, Bandula, and he's drawn a caricature of Mike Sonko. And Mike Sonko is slapping a camera, labeled the media. And slap. And the caption there, "It is the cartel's fault." Now, I watched that clip yesterday. Mike Sonko...
where was he going?
He was going to ESCC. And there's a funny journalist who was rushing inside and he was blocked. And he was ruffled a bit. He had Kibelembele over there. He took it to the gate. So I don't think Sonko slapped him.
Yeah, I don't know what... I mean, we know that Sonko's a little bit crazy. He loves being in front of the camera. He likes to be a bit dramatic.
Absolutely.
And I think this cartoon actually shows that.
Absolutely. I think, media, you're too sensitive sometimes. Just if you get a slap, it's just
that's true. And because we know that he's a master of media, it's almost as if he'll do something and they react exactly how he wants them to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this one we trash very far.
Oh, look at you. Decisive today.
So there we have a double win.
What are you trying to say?
Double win from the Star.
What is our final thought?
And now our final thought, inspired by a book entitled Elon Musk. I was going to say Elon Musk. Caption there is Tesla, SpaceX, and the Quest for a Fantastic Future, by a lady called Ashley Vance.
Yeah. So this week we looked at some of the people who built America,
Yeah,
who
some
were
people
changers.
change industry.
Exactly.
And
Through the Gilded Age.
Yes.
And I think now we're getting into today, the modern age, of the people who've changed their industries as we know them today, technology and whatnot.
Exactly.
So as you know, Elon Musk, the book is entitled Tesla, SpaceX, and the Quest for a Fantastic Future by Ashley Vance, written in 2015.
Yeah.
So this book is actually based on 30 hours of conversation between Vance and Elon Musk himself.
Absolutely.
So if you read the first chapter, they talk about how they went to meet at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And initially he did not want to meet with this woman. He
Yes.
said, I don't want anybody talking about me. He has a very difficult relationship with the media.
Yes.
But eventually he said, if you're going to do this book, let's do it right.
Yeah, I saw it.
And so the book highlights his very complicated childhood, but also how he manages to make decisions and manages his own time, and how time and time again he's a disruptor of industries, all the while with this goal he has of saving humanity. I think you don't always have crazy industry people
Yeah.
who want to save the world.
Want to change the world.
Yeah. So Musk was actually born in South Africa. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes.
So maybe we can say he's one of ours.
He's
South
not.
African.
Maybe a
born.
little
His,
bit.
his parents actually migrated in the 1950s
Yeah.
from Canada to South Africa.
Okay, but
Yeah,
we can
but
say the
he
South
was-
African water is what inspired him, right?
It's because he was bullied.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So by 9 years old, he had taught himself how to do computer programming. And by 12 years old, he had developed a computer program that he later sold for $500. So at a young age, we're seeing he has this entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
By 17, he moves to Canada because he wanted to be close to the US. And then he goes to the US and he gets 2 bachelor degrees, not
Yes.
1, 2 at the same time.
Yeah.
And then he was later accepted to the University of Stanford, where he quit after 2 days.
Yeah.
He went for 2 classes and he said, this is not for me.
Yes.
And then in that same year, he went and he started his first company, which was called Zip2 in
Yes.
1995.
Yes.
So Zip2 is similar to what we know as Google Maps today.
Absolutely.
And he sold it to Compaq, the computer company,
Yeah.
for $305 million,
Yes.
only 4 years later.
Yeah.
Then in 1999, he starts another company called X.com,
Yes.
which was supposed to be an online bank. And it later merged with another company, and then that is what we know today as PayPal. Quite
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But during this period, you see him demonstrating a lot of resilience and determination. They
Yeah.
say that he was the most hardworking person in his team.
Yeah.
But this often sometimes came through as stubbornness.
Yes.
And this eventually led to a coup
Yes.
where he was ousted as CEO. So he left the
Yes.
country.
Yes.
I feel like this sounds like an African dictator story.
Yes.
He left the country, then when he came back,
Yeah.
he was CEO no more.
Yes.
However, years later,
Yeah.
PayPal eventually sold to eBay for $1.6 billion, and this was in 2002.
Yes.
In that exact same year, he founded SpaceX, which is an aerospace manufacturer and space transport provider.
Yeah.
So they're providing space transport before we even know where we're going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's currently valued at $34 billion, and he's
Yeah.
also the CEO.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, he joined the Tesla team, Tesla Inc.,
Yes.
which is an electric car company.
Yeah.
And he's currently the CEO and designer,
Yeah.
and it is valued currently at $33 billion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they say that Tesla is America's favorite car right now.
Yes, it is. Also
yes.
Norway, I hear that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So his net worth right now is about 23.4 billion. That's of 2019.
Yeah.
And according to Forbes, he is the 23rd richest man in America. And of today, the 7th of November, because it changes quite frequently, he is the 43rd richest man in the world.
Yes.
So this is a man with like a lot of experience, a lot of huge ideas.
Yeah.
He's also the co-founder of a company called Neuralink, which looks at brain waves. The founder of the Boring Company,
Yeah.
that's what it's called,
Yes.
that does infrastructure and tunnel construction company.
Yeah.
So they actually sold this huge firefighting gun for
Yes.
thousands of dollars, and it
Yes.
sold out in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's also the co-founder of OpenAI, which looks into ethical AI tech.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Fantastic.
So, guys, I have made a point that on Sunday, this coming Sunday, I'll go to my pastor and I'll ask him that because they say that the end of the world is about to come,
All right.
and if the end of the world is about to come, then if you go to Mars, whether the end of the world will happen there.
Okay.
And now, why I'm asking that is because of this.
Which living God do you serve?
I see that's why I'm going to my pastor.
All right.
Just to clarify.
Whether he's the God of Mars as well.
Yes.
I'm so worried.
All right. Tell us.
Yeah. See, the reason I'm asking this is because of this. This man, and the reason probably we're colonized is because Muzungus have a colonial mentality, which is okay. But the reason why they succeed is because they see beyond their borders. This guy has seen SpaceX, and SpaceX is this program he has. I can see you guys cringing.
We're waiting for the punchline.
There's no punchline. But I mean, you spend over $100 million on this space program, and you say by 2024, you'll be taking people to Mars for $500,000 a piece per person. And that trip will take 1 year, so you land in 2025. Now I sit back and I say, these guys are very, very clever. But I sit back and flip the script and say, I don't think they're that clever. What they're actually doing is this. They're creating a situation for their listed companies that people will be so much in awe and shock and awe that they'll be able to make some profit. Now, Elon Musk's main thing in doing his business thing is profit. And allow me to read something he said. He said, I think the profit motive is a good one if the rules of an industry are properly set up. Right? There is nothing fundamentally wrong with profit. In fact, profit just means that people are paying you more for whatever you are doing that you are spending to create. That is a good thing. I actually don't think he'll take people to Mars.
Oh, you think it's all a big hoax?
I think it's a big hoax because
for profit.
He's listed in a New York Stock Exchange, correct?
Yes, he is. Almost all his companies are.
And therefore, if you make ridiculous claims or ridiculous statements, I think that is how you...
It drives your stock price up.
He sort of reminded me of Virgin.
Richard Branson.
Sort of that exciting, adventurous nature to business.
Yes.
But he has a few lessons I think he can offer us.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Despite, even without the colonizing aspects, Musk once pointed out that if you work 100 hours per week while everyone else is working 40, then you will accomplish everything they can do in a year in a third of the time.
Wow.
And I think even just with all the different projects he's working on, this is a man who's
he's always
on
working.
a mission, right? So he says, pay attention and act on what you see. So Musk's rise to success wasn't because he was extremely lucky, rich, or even supernaturally smart. It occurred because as a young man, he took time to read the sign of the times.
That's so true.
And he sort of positioned himself early enough for internet, space travel, and what else? Renewable energy. So he saw those were the things that were going to change the world, and he said, how do I get ahead of this? So by what he studied, who he met with, where he lived, all of that, right?
Absolutely.
Then the other lesson we can learn from him is rolling with the punches. So when his company Zip2 was about to be acquired, he really resisted it. However, then he took those lessons for Zip2 to take to X.com, which is his next company, and say, how can I improve upon my company? The next thing he does is take risks to bring important changes. So you've mentioned his foundation called OpenAI. So OpenAI is to do with artificial intelligence. And the idea there is he sees this, him, Stephen Hawking, and other scientists have seen artificial intelligence as the single most existential threat to human survival. That computers will take over what we do it better than us, and probably colonize us even more. Right? And so he says the way around this is to make this information available to everyone. So OpenAI received a pledge of $1 billion from Microsoft. And the idea is to fight Google, Facebook, and the biggies in AI. And so that if everybody has AI access, then nobody can become an AI superpower. And in that, I think he's being a bit noble. I guess
it's not always about profit,
but only time will tell. And then the other thing he says is do not be afraid to pivot. So he says while it's important to have a plan, it doesn't mean that you can never change from said plan. And we saw that with Tesla when the changes needed to be made. I think at one point they even had to recall some cars because they kept having these glitches. And you see it with the cost of space travel. So he says, okay, it's too expensive to build a rocket ship every time, but we need to figure out how we can still make it happen, right? So, and he says pivoting is different from changing your plan at every hiccup.
Being flexible.
Pivoting is also being methodical. It's being calculating. It's changing the plan after being well thought out. You don't just change, right? So I think I learned quite a bit from him, and I think he was quite inspirational.
My biggest lesson from him was it's more important to ask the right questions than have the right answer.
I love
and
that.
he got this from a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was written in, I think, the late 80s. 90s.
Yes.
And it's about these people who go off exploring into space. Maybe
Yes.
that's where he got his inspiration from.
Exactly.
And they have this computer that they're trying to ask, what is the meaning of life? So they input all these questions, and then the computer answers back. The answer is 42. So the meaning of life is 42. And people didn't know what to do with the answer 42. So from that book, he learned it's more important to ask the right question. What is the meaning of life is a right question, but 42,
Absolutely.
What do you do with it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow.
Absolutely.
So on a day where we had a double win, headline from the Star is Kalonzo talking to Ruto about 2022 and the cartoon fundraising. I want to leave you with this. Finally, he says, Elon Musk says, find your own success metric. So when Compaq, the company, bought his company after just 4 years for millions of dollars, to everyone else that would be success, isn't it?
Yes.
You're not 30 years old.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was 28, I think.
You now have millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But for him, that was a failure. That's not what he wanted, right?
Yeah.
So I would say,
Yeah.
in life, knowing what your success or your failure is really important as you chart your path to greatness.
Absolutely. Set your boundary conditions.
Yes, exactly. Please subscribe to our channel and also find us on TV. We're on Pang, Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Have a good evening.